you and your co-parents have opposite parenting styles? Today, we're going to discuss how to protect your child from that emotional whiplash that they could have going from home to home with these different parenting styles. Welcome to another episode of Co-Parenting with Dr. Jerry. I am Dr. Jerry Johnson, and our series on building healthy co-parenting systems is continuing tonight. In the last episode, we discussed the topic of, is gentle parenting too soft or are we too hard? In that episode, we discussed the differences between parenting styles that could happen with you and your co-parents and how you can navigate those styles with your child or children going through or to two different households, or maybe three if they have another household that they stay in. But tonight, what we're going to do under that umbrella of gentle parenting is we're going to talk about parenting styles when you may be the gentle parent and they are not. Okay. Or maybe they are the gentle parent and you are not. Hopefully, you can learn something tonight. But if you don't know me, I am Dr. Jerry Johnson. I am the creator of Co-Parenting with Dr. Jerry, formerly Common Sense Co-Parenting, which I still haven't gotten to my branding on my backgrounds, but I'll get there, guys. I will get there. I am here to help you navigate the complexities of co-parenting with compassion, with collaboration, with some actually cooperation as well. But there's a framework that I have discussed within all of my beginning episodes that you might want to go back to and look at and watch, or you can send them to someone who you think might need them. But what I do is I help you to center on the child's well-being above all else within everything that you do. So with this episode, let's get it started. Now, to set the tone, I'm going to talk about the emotional whiplash that kids can navigate between two parenting worlds. That means you have a parenting world of your style and your co-parents has a parenting world of theirs. Now, let's just say you teach your child to use their words, and then they go to the other house and they get told to stop crying, or I'll give you something to cry about, right? I used to hear people say that as I was growing up. Let's just say your house or one house is calm, then the other one is loud. Maybe there are more kids at the other house, but at your house, it's just you and your child. Maybe one house, you guys explain things to the child or the children, and the other home demands things. You do this or that. There is no explanation. There is no why, no purpose. And your child, between these two households, they get stuck in the middle, trying to figure out which version of themselves is the right version to be at that time. If you all looked at previous episodes, you saw my daughter, and my daughter, as an adult child right now, spoke about specifically her feeling like she was in two different worlds when she went from my home to her father's home, and how she felt like she had to be two different people and learn, different sets of things. Now, in the end, this is not a bad thing for children to be able to do, which is what I call code switch or navigate different types of environments. That's not a bad thing. What can become bad is when they are not talked to or explained or, discussed with certain things about why that household is the way it is, or why that parent style is the way it is. And a lot of times we don't want to have to, we feel like we're the adults. We don't have to explain ourselves to children, but yeah, sometimes we do. Sometimes we do. Because what we are doing sometimes is what we've learned in our homes growing up or in our parents' home growing up. And that's not always the best way for our child or our children. They're different people. They are made up of two different people other than our parents, myself and somebody else. So I have to think about the emotional stability or regulation of my co-parent, my emotional stability and regulation, the background that my co-parent has with their parents or their family, my background with my parents and my family. Like I have to think about as a co-parent, not only myself and why I do things the way I do, but my co-parent and why they do things the way they do, and how is it best for my child to experience my parenting style. My child may not be, and this happens to a lot of us, as resilient as I want them to be or as tough as I want them to be because I was raised that way. No, your child may need to grow to be that way because they have a whole nother set of DNA inside them that is not just yours. Okay? And a lot of times we don't know the heredity of our co-parents. We don't know their family background all the way back. We don't know mental or health or illnesses that they have in their family line that may show up in our kids. We don't know emotional and mental stability and all that might show up in our kids. Heredity is something else. Things come back when they want to, not when we want them to. So when we talk about this emotional whiplash that they have to navigate between the two parenting worlds, it's real. And the problem is that gentle parenting versus authoritarian, which we talked about in the last episode, or traditional parenting, um, is the problem is that gentle parenting relies on connection. It relies on regulation. It relies on you teaching your children or your child what's going on in this world. You actually have to talk to them. Many things you need to explain to them. They are learning from your behavior every day. If you don't talk to them about your behavior and why you do the things that you do, they make assumptions and they go off and do those things based on what they think or why they thought you did it. And many times I'm telling you it's wrong. Because as humans, our thoughts go to the negative first. They very rarely go to the positive. Okay? So with gentle parenting, it relies on those three things: connection, regulation, and teaching. If you are not doing those three things, most likely you're trying to control, which is this authoritarian piece. You're trying to have just obedience. And whatever you're doing is typically just punishment based. It is not teaching based. And we talked about the difference in the last episode. So please revisit that if you want to know the difference and how that looks. So just an example of, like, just to make it real for you, this means that in one house, mistakes are learning or teaching moments. And in the other house, they are just punishable offenses. School is not the only place that your children should be learning. School is not the only place where there should be teaching and learning moments when it comes to your child's behavior. You cannot expect teachers and administrators in a school of 1,300 kids, 300 kids, 400 kids that outnumber the number of adults in that school, to always get it right with them doing teaching and learning moments, when you can't even do that with your one child at home in your four walls without 25 other kids in a classroom, or 20 other personalities in a classroom, or 400 other personalities in a school. No. Your children or child spends more time with you from the ages of 0 to 5 than they do in the first few years of schooling with teachers or educators. And by 5, pretty much their personality is formed. So that means that any modifications that come after that usually is because of their environment, or maybe because of schooling or experiences that they have. And that's if modifications or changes even happen. Okay. So we don't want in one house mistakes to be learning and teaching moments, and the other one that they're just punishable offenses. The thing is that kids don't just experience different rules. They experience, let's go back to this. And I know we've been talking about it a lot. I'm going to show you guys a video in one of my next episodes, and maybe you'll understand a little bit more. They experience different emotional expectations, because everything starts from our thoughts and then our emotions. So when they experience different emotional expectations, the rules are attached to those. Whatever rules you set, let's say you got to be in bed by 9 o'clock or 8:30 on weekdays for school. Emotionally, they're feeling something about that, depending on how the parent reacts to that when they do it or when they don't do it. Or, if they know their homework takes a long time after school and then they got to get right in the bed, they're emotionally feeling something because they've had no downtime, no time to just veg out for a second and decompress. So any of the rules that you have in your house, they do have emotional expectations for those. That's why some kids throw tantrums. Some kids don't. Some kids just do what they're supposed to do and they're obedient and compliant, but inside they're hating it. And they got some feelings about you, because it's not explained to them, why do I need to be in bed at this time? What can I do before that I can feel like I have a little bit of time between school and being at home, and I can decompress just like you get to do. You get to have your glass of wine. You get to sit down at a TV and, watch your favorite show before you go to bed. You don't just work and then go to bed, but sometimes you may. They don't know that. They don't know all of that. They don't know why that's happening. Okay? It's the teaching and learning moments. These are the moments that I'm talking about. All right? So let's talk about what happens to the child. The child begins to think about, in certain situations, the confusion that they have. When the rules are broken, let's just say the rules are broken, and they are confused about whether or not they're allowed to express their feelings or not about this rule. Maybe the rule is not giving them any downtime, and they're like, dang, I would like to watch 30 minutes of TV or listen to 30 minutes of music or something between homework and dinner and the time I have to go to bed. They're confused. Am I able to express this without somebody punishing me for it? Or can we talk about it? They also, once again, like my daughter talked about, have this, they develop this code switching behavior where they have to have a different personality in each home. Mind you, for various groups living in the United States, particularly people of color, we have lived that way for decades, maybe centuries, of developing different personalities in different environments. So that code switching behavior for children is real because we have experienced it. We experience it on a daily basis. But when they are going from home to home with their parents, that should be their safe place. Both homes should be their safe place where they know they can be themselves and that is accepted. Okay. It should, what happens on the outside world, like I said before, they have to know that the way that they are treated at home is not necessarily going to be the way that the world treats them. And yes, we all have to adapt, just like plants do, just like the environment does, just like animals do. We adapt to our environments. So in some ways, code switching could be good, but not having to go between two homes and doing that. These should be their safe places. Now, we see a rise in anxiety and depression and things like that in our young people. This is also one of the reasons why. Because they are constantly having to read the room in their own homes. They can't get away from it in their environment outside, going to school, whatever, right? They have to do it to stay safe in a lot of different things, a lot of different reasons. But when they come home, by God, they should not have to have this anxiety and this hyper awareness. We see a rise in our young people of this type of behavior. Like they are more depressed, they have more anxiety, they are hyper aware of different things going on around them, whether you think so or not, or whether they talk about it or not. But if you develop that relationship with them where they are able to talk and express their feelings and tell you certain things, then they won't be like this in the home. The home, once again, both homes should be their safe place. And another impact that this different parenting styles could have on them, this is going to be the last one, is an internal conflict that they have. If one home feels safe, they're thinking to themselves, well, does that mean the other home is not safe? Then you get the statements of, oh, I don't want to go over there. I don't want to go to dad's house, or I don't want to go to mom's house. And you get upset. Both parents get upset. One parent gets upset because they feel like shame or whatever because the child doesn't want to go to their house. Like, what's wrong with my house? The other parent gets upset because they probably need a break. And they're like, you going to your daddy's house this weekend. I need a break. Or you going to your mom's house and I need a break. But the child internally is conflicted. And nobody is asking them, why do you say that? Why do you say that? Nobody's saying, oh my gosh, I totally understand that you don't want to go to your dad's house or your mom's house. But can you explain to me, like, help me to understand why you don't? So instead of jumping off into how we feel about something as the adults, Why don't we ask the child why they feel that way? That's that. Can they express their feelings? So when we have, let's roll it back. When we have two different parenting styles in the homes, the impact could be confusion. It could be code switching behavior. It could be anxiety and hyper awareness. And then it could also be internal conflict. And all of this means that they're not struggling with different rules in each household. They're not struggling with the rules because the rules and the structure actually creates some safety for them. But within that, they are struggling with the different, let's say, emotional safety levels. So the rules may be keeping them physically safe. The structure may be keeping them physically safe, but they're struggling with the emotional safety level piece because they don't know whether or not they can be themselves. They don't know whether or not they can talk and express their feelings. You know, they don't know because one parent may be that gentle parent and relying on that connection and that emotional safety and developing that. But the other parent may be that authoritarian parent where, no, we're not talking about it. This just is what it is, and you're going to do it or you're going to be in trouble. So if you are that gentle parent that is trying to create, that emotional safety, that connection, that everything that you're trying to do to make your child feel safe emotionally, mentally, physically, there might be some traps that you fall into. Okay? So I'm gonna push back a little bit because gentle parenting does not mean you're a pushover. And I said that in the last episode. So what we don't want to fall into, the traps we don't want to fall into, number one is overcompensating. You may become the safe parent, but you are also the exhausted parent. And I'm going to tell you guys, that is not a good place to be in because I've been there. I have been there. I have been the one saying, why do I have to do this? Why do I have to say something? Why do I always have to be the safe place? I've been there and I've overcompensated and I've been exhausted. So it's not saying that's bad. I'm saying that in order for you to learn how to put boundaries in place and do things decent and in order, you may need to get there and just say, I'm sick and tired of being sick and tired, and then change something. But if you're already there, I'm telling you right now, you need to change it. And that took conversations with the other parent because I'm going to tell you what, if you don't do it, you are going to have resentment toward that other parent. You are. You're going to have resentment. You're going to try to undo or try to fix what's going on in the other household, and that's not your job. And then the last thing that might happen is that you're going to end up talking negatively about the other parent. And it doesn't have to come out this overt, okay? It can be very subtle. It could be little sarcastic comments, even to your family or your friends in front of your child. These are the traps that end up having us thinking we're the better parent. and we are doing things better than our co-parent. So not a good mindset to be in, guys. And I'm saying this from experience because when we set ourselves on a pedestal of we are the so-called better parent, there's only a certain amount of time before you fall from that. Nobody should be put on a pedestal except God. We are all humans having a human experience. We make mistakes, and we are all perfectly imperfect. So if you are going to be and take on the gentle parenting piece, do not fall into these traps. Because if you do that, then you're setting yourself up eventually to fail or fall. And then you're going to have the other parent looking at you like, dang, I thought you were, you know, because you talk so high and mighty about yourself, you talking down on the other parent. At some point in time, it comes back around. It is better to work with the other parent on how you're going to navigate things. Even when my ex-husband was on the episode, go back to it and look at it. And we talked about how we went from chaos to collaboration, our chaotic part, and then how we, do things now and how everything happened as she was growing up. He spoke about how the things that I did and the things that I put in place with visitation and all that type of stuff, he was doing when he got married. And then his wife, his current wife, was divorced as well. She started implementing some of the things that we were doing. And it made their relationship better. There was not one point in time, you guys, that I knew that. He just told me that. But that was not why I was doing the work that I was doing. I was doing the work that I was doing for my daughter, and it ended up making his marriage and his, situation and his household more effective as well. So you have to understand that you cannot control the other household, but you can control the emotional consistency in yours. And hopefully it transfers to the other household like mine did. That's exactly what it did. It transferred to the other household. So do not fall in the traps of overcompensating, trying to, fix the other household, having resentment for that parent, and then talking negatively about them. That doesn't help anybody, and it does not help you. Neither parent is the better parent. You know what it should be? It should be that both parents are equally as good at what it is they're supposed to do for the child. There are things that my ex-husband does for my daughter that I can't do. And I will tell my daughter that. Yo, I need you to ask your father about that because that's not what I do, ma'am. That's not what I do. And there are things that I do for my daughter, especially now that I am moving out of the country and my daughter, I've moved her successfully to her graduate school. My ex-husband said the same thing to me. There's just certain things that you do for her that I hope you'll be able to continue even though you are out of the country. And I will, to the best of my ability. Because you know why? Because she benefits from having both of us work within our strengths and the things that we can do for her. And that's where you should be. That's the mindset you should have. So what is going to actually happen if you, let's just say, anchor yourself in the gentle parenting realm? Let me give you a few practical strategies. What I want you to do is I want you to have a foundation in your home. This is number one, of predictability. Predictability for your child. May sound boring, but like I said before, I love at this point in my life, especially a boring relationship. I want that predictability in your behavior, in your tone, all of that. So create a foundation in your home of predictability. Same types of responses, same voice tone, same expectations. Kids need one emotional home base. And if we can provide that for them, that's fine. Even if they have two homes, they need at least one. That's 50%. I know that's an F in school, but it's 50% chance of anything in this life, really. Okay? So create a foundation of predictability. Same responses, same tones, same expectations all the time, consistently. Number two, name the difference without criticizing. So if your child comes to you and they say, well, I don't have to do that at mom's house, or I don't have to do that at dad's house, this is how you respond. Same every time. Different homes have different rules. In this home, we handle things this way and explain it to them. I had to do it as a school principal. When parents came to me talking about some, well, they don't do this over at the school, and y'all in the same district. Different schools, different ways we handle the rules. In this school, this is the way we handle this. Period and point blank. Okay? So different homes have different rules when they start criticizing. In this home, we handle things this way. That's it. That's number two. Number three, I want you to teach emotional flexibility. I don't want you to teach confusion. If you believe in God at all, you know God does not create confusion. God creates clarity. Okay? So you can tell them they can feel upset and they can still follow the directions. It's a both thing. Two things can happen, or two things can be true at the same time. You can feel upset and you can still follow directions. And you help them carry that across all environments. That goes for school, that goes for when you out at Target, that goes for when you at the grandparents' house, auntie house, whoever. You can be upset about something, but you can still follow the direction. That's emotional flexibility. We're not doing confusion. You can be upset about something and you can crash out anywhere. No, we're not doing that. Okay. You also want to, that was number three, teach emotional flexibility. Number four, you also want to regulate first and then you teach second. We talked about this, about the transitions between homes. If they're getting upset, they're getting emotionally riled up, you want to regulate them first. I understand you are upset, but you still have to go to your father's house. I understand you want me to stay right now, but I need to go so you can go with your mom. Have fun. I love you. I will see you later. So regulate their emotions and yours first, and then you teach them how to have that emotional flexibility second. And that was number four. Number five, I want you to stop with the competition. This is not a competition. I just talked about it earlier. This is not a who's better than who. We are not trying to win co-parenting. You are trying to stabilize your child. That's your focus. This is not a competition. We are not competing for who bought how many shoes or who paid for prom or who threw the biggest Sweet 16 party. We're not doing it. Okay. We're not trying to win parenting. We're trying to stabilize our child. So that's number 5. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut this. I'm trying to stay on time, guys. I'm going to leave you with this. Just a quick real life scenario. So the child comes to you and they say, this is living between 2 households and 2 parenting styles. Dad said I'm being disrespectful to him when I cry. Let me say it again. Dad said I'm being disrespectful to him when I cry. And I'm saying dad because, typically the fathers are a little bit more, and that's okay because it should be a balance. That's okay. But how you should respond, even if it's mom said I'm being disrespectful when I cry, how you should respond is you should validate that first. You should say, I know that probably felt really hard for you to hear. I know that probably hurt your feelings. In this house, it's okay to have feelings. It's even if it's big feelings, big ones. This is how we talk to the tiny humans most of the time. All right? We can have big feelings here in this house. We can feel upset and we can still speak respectfully. So upset could be crying, upset could be I want to scream, I want to cuss, whatever. Because some of our teenagers cussing. That's, I was. I get it. But we can feel upset and still speak respectfully. Let me say it again. Dad said I'm being disrespectful when I cry. You say that probably felt hard for you to hear. I understand. In this house, feelings are okay, even big ones, even big feelings. We can be upset and we can still speak respectfully. That's how you can address it. So in closing, I'm going to say what I said last time pretty much. Your child does not need 2 perfect parents. Nobody is perfect. No human is perfect. Only God is perfect. They need at least one emotionally consistent parent. That's what they need. You are not weak for choosing to be a gentle parent if that is your choice. You are being strategic about how you parent your child and the type of human that you want them to grow up to be. That's an emotionally regulated one. So if you are navigating 2 parenting styles right now, or you know someone who is, please look at the previous episode that I talked about parenting styles if you haven't already, and share this episode with another parent who might need it as well. I will see you guys on the next episode where I will continue the series about co-parenting systems, healthy co-parenting systems. Okay. And I'm going to say, as I always do, you guys go out there and you co-parent with a purpose. I'll see you soon.